This is The Litter Box, a Detroit Lions podcast with your hosts, Chet West and Bill Patterson.
Lions Litter Box fans, we got a little preview for you guys today here for the Commanders game coming up this weekend in Washington, D.C. We get the afternoon launch, the 3:25 game. I am partial to the late game on a Sunday for one reason or the other. Gives me a little time to do a few things maybe early on in the day and then come home, relax, and watch some Lions football. Bill, we got the Commanders on tap. Do you have any instant thoughts in regards to this team? I have a feeling you have a few things on your mind.
Yeah, I do, Chet. Good question. One, the Commanders have lost 4 games straight, and they're dealing with a lot of media backlash for the fact that they were getting smoked by the Seattle Seahawks at home and left their second-year quarterback, Jaden Daniels, in, and he ended up dislocating his elbow. With that, all 3 of their should-be starting receivers are out at this point. Noah Brown is on the injured reserve list. Scary Terry McLaurin is taking some time to get back. And Luke McCaffrey is also on the injured reserve list. So it's going to be Deebo Samuel and a bunch of other guys. So I would think the mismatch in this, an advantage would be the Lions secondary and the fact that the Lions pass rush has been healthy this year. And if they can get home on a backup quarterback, Marcus Mariota, who doesn't have a full arsenal of weapons, it would seem that the Lions defense would have the advantage against the Commanders offense.
I'm going to take a slightly different approach here.
Yeah?
I don't disagree with you, but I think if there was a game where the Lions offense could get healthy, especially the passing game, and I know we're focusing a lot on the rush lately, the Commanders have a terrible pass defense. They're like 24th in the league.
Terrible.
The Lions apparently have the 10th rated passing offense in the league, even though it wouldn't look that way to you and I, especially over the last couple games.
I think week 2 and 3 blew that up. The Bears
could have. Although we've had good passer ratings. I mean, Goff's passer ratings have been quite good. I mean, 108.4 against the Vikings, 118 against the Chiefs, 151 against the Bengals. I just think you look at the Commanders' stats against passing offenses, it is not good. I mean, quarterback ratings are through the roof, and they haven't played the strongest offenses. The Raiders had a 132.7 quarterback rating. The Falcons had a 125.9 quarterback rating. The Chargers, they beat the Chargers. The Chargers struggled in that game. That's their one win on their entire schedule that's impressive. The other 2 teams they beat were the Giants in week 1, who was not good, and the Raiders.
The Chargers were without both starting tackles.
I believe they were at that point. That was week 5.
The secret sauce there.
Yeah. But they've lost to the Bears, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and the Seahawks. Not pushovers by any stretch over the last 4 games. And I still do believe we're going to get a fight because, unlike you, I think they could expose our defensive backfield right now only because of the fact that our D-backs are just not. If we're running Arthur Mollett out there, and I'm sure you're going to have some injury updates here in a little bit, but if we're running Arthur Mollett and Amik Robertson out there again, I don't have a lot of faith that we could defend anyone, even if they have their key receivers out for the game. My thoughts.
All right. I disagree completely, and wash out your mouth. We do not diss on Amik Robertson.
Out your mouth.
He is
dirt.
He is a fabulous nickelback.
I appreciate him, but I just don't know that he's the corner that you don't want him one-on-one man coverage on a guy. I just don't see it as working. He's
the nickel slot guy. And
I know.
He's being forced.
I know.
Asked to do something that
That's
he shouldn't
what I'm
be
saying, though. You're exactly right. You're exactly right. At any rate.
All right, injuries.
You want to move on to injuries? Give me your injury talk.
It's
a
brutal.
List.
You wouldn't think, having already had the Detroit Lions bye, that it would be this bad. Kirby Joseph is not practicing. He is at the facility in Allen Park, but his knee is still bothering him. Pat O'Connor, who's really more a depth piece on the defensive line, is battling a knee injury as well. He is not practicing. And then the last player who is not practicing or participating is Jacob Sailors, the running back. He's dealing with a back injury. Of those 3, Joseph is, a starter. He's a Pro Bowl player. He's led the league in interceptions, from the safety position. So he's going to be the biggest miss there. I think Roy Lopez will be able to take some of Pat O'Connor's snaps. And Jacob Saylors has really only been performing on kick returns and kick off coverage. And I would like to think that Vaki is going to be an upgrade over him in both those areas. Now let's get to the meat on the bone a little bit more. Taylor Decker is still dealing with that shoulder. He's just going to play hurt. And good news is that Miles Frazier, who I thought was lost for the season, he was the 5th round pick from Louisiana State. He can play guard and tackle. His knee is rehabbing well, and he is on the practice field. Whether that means we see him this week or not is still to be determined.
Just good to see the clock running on him, right? I mean, just want to see these guys get out there and run around a little bit and see that they're on their way back.
Exactly. And then another guy that we haven't seen this year that could definitely help the defense is Joshua Pascal. His back is healing nicely, and he is practicing. Craig Reynolds is back from that hamstring injury. So come on, Craig. He can take a little bit of that. It is a Friday today, so we have to say
why not? Why not? We got pay the homage.
Yeah, we got to get a little. Come on, Craig. So he's back. Malcolm Rodriguez is back. He's still battling a knee injury. All right, then let's go a little bit deeper. Penei Sewell battling a shoulder injury. Dan Skipper is battling a back. Grant Stewart is battling a foot injury. Terrion Arnold is battling a shoulder injury. Ty Summers, a backup linebacker, has an injured hand, and Daniel Thomas, backup safety, has a forearm. That is the biggest injury list I've seen since we started this pod.
Maybe we should just be doing healthy lists. I feel like injury lists are just so long. You want to call the guys out there healthy. There's like 4. At any rate, good coverage there. Thanks for that list. You did a little more than meat on the bone. You got down into the marrow a little bit there on a few guys. What about the Commanders? I know Daniels will be out. He's going to be out for a while. It sounds like Terry McLaurin's going to be out for this one. Unfortunately, he's on both my fantasy teams, and I have not got much use out of him this season. When he has been in there, he's been good. But when he just doesn't seem to stay healthy, especially this year. Any other thoughts on the Commanders besides those 2? Those are the main ones.
Normally, I would say this is a crazy list for the Commanders as well, but the Lions...
But it pales in comparison.
Yeah, I just had my jaw on the floor. Hopefully we get better news today. We're doing this pod Friday, so happy Friday, everybody. Yes. Trey Amos, cornerback, is dealing with a hip injury. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt, their rookie running back, has a tooth injury.
A tooth injury?
But he's been a full participant, but he's still listed.
Is it a cavity? Do we have the first ever running back missing a game for a cavity?
I don't know if
I know that we're supposed to see more of Chris Rodriguez, which did spend a spell on my fantasy squad this year. He is now gone, but he may get a look here, and he's got a little bit of skill, but I don't. I mean... You're running behind Laramie, Gas Mask, Tunsil. I have no idea how that's going to work out.
Hold on. He's also on this list. He's dealing with a hamstring.
Oh, no. So they've lost him too. Goodness.
Well, I think he's going to play.
Yeah, he'll probably play, but he's dinged.
This is kind of an insider one for you. Eddie Goldman's their nose tackle. He was a full participant, but he was limited earlier in the week, and he's dealing with a concussion. He is kind of the bedrock of their defensive line and what allows the Commanders to either stop the run or be run upon.
Okay.
It's concussion, so he has to go through protocol. Chet, if he doesn't clear protocol, clear advantage to the Lions offense. Yeah. And I think we see Monty and Gibbs go crazy.
They still have the Chase Youngs. They still have a few guys that can cause some issues, but they are not quite the pass rush we've faced over the past couple of weeks, at least in my estimation.
They will not blitz nearly as much as the Minnesota Vikings and Brian Flores did. All right, continuing. Quan Martin, safety, hamstring. Scary Terry still dealing with his quad. Jerzon Newton, another defensive tackle that occupies space and is tough for, let's say, a Graham Glasgow to move out of the way, is dealing with an ankle injury.
Okay.
Tyler Owens, safety, hamstring. Laramie Tunsil, the gas mask himself. He's an offensive tackle. He's dealing with a hamstring. Bobby Wagner, their middle linebacker, is dealing with a broken thumb and will probably have a cast on that. And he is the quarterback of their defense. And then the last
guy...
He
caused havoc for us last year in the playoffs.
The divisional game, he would have gotten a game
like
ball.
Watching a 40-year... Is he like 40 or something?
He's
the guy
so
has
old.
Been in the league forever. Okay.
And then the last one is not their starting tight end. He's kind of the Commanders' Brock Wright. Colson Yankoff, easily my favorite name on the Commanders. Colson
that's
Yankoff.
a gem. That's a gem.
Yeah, that would be a jersey if I, were a Commanders fan. I'd probably have to get a Yankoff.
Hey, Yankoff, get in there.
He's dealing with a hammy. The bad news for the Lions is that if I go down the list for full participation, most of these guys are practicing. The ones that didn't were Daniels and McLaurin. So, and then Tyler Owens had a limited, and then Yankoff's a little bit limited. Quan Martin's limited, but everybody else is full participation.
So both teams dinged up. The last year after the playoff, a lot of the Washington fans, it's been kind of well documented. The Lions were making some hay about their injury issues and how, they lost that playoff game due to injuries and all the injuries we had to deal with. And a lot of the Washington fans were like, boo-hoo, you got to play with injuries. It's part of the NFL. Well, guess what, guys? You get to deal with that now this season, and you see what it's like to lose half your team. But injuries or no injuries, you got to play the games every weekend. We've covered the injuries. Do we have some thoughts on the trade deadline, Bill? Where do you stand on this whole thing?
I don't think Brad Holmes did enough. And here is my only point, is that Brad Holmes has been very aggressive in moving up the draft. And right now the plan is working. The Lions draft, they develop, and they sign guys for below market deals. They're avoiding free agency 2 years in a row. What were their big free agent signings? DJ Reed and Roy Lopez. And then they made a trade for Carlton Davis with the Buccaneers. Outside of that, they really don't have to foray into the free agent waters, which is a great way to run an NFL franchise and a great way to run your business. However, if there is a chink in Brad Holmes' armor, and, I'm not going to go too crazy on him because I think the world of him, but that he does trade up for players that seem to be luxuries at times. And I'm going to bring up our guy, Isaac Tesla or Coleslaw, and talk about the fact that we gave up 3 third-round picks to move up to get him. We did get some picks in return, but the fact is one of those third-round picks could have gone to Miami for Jalen Phillips, who I don't know for sure, but the opportunity for Jalen Phillips to come off the edge on third down and help this team win is more likely than Tesla. There's not enough balls on the offense right now. Gibbs isn't getting what he needs. Montgomery's not getting what he needs. St. Brown's getting his, and so is Laporta. But, we heard last week, we need to get JMO involved in the offense. And then we heard this week, we need to get Tesla involved in the offense. There's not enough balls to go around. And I guess my icing on this...
There isn't enough time in the pocket.
Yeah.
To get to that third read.
My icing on this complaint cake would be, why would you draft Tesla knowing that you were going to extend JMO? And so it seems like it's an embarrassment of riches. And I'm also frustrated that if Tesla really is the second coming or someone that's going to be someone we should get excited about, Khalif Raymond should not be keeping him off the field.
Yeah.
Khalif Raymond,
I actually don't think Khalif Raymond should be keeping him off the field, period, right now.
But he is.
So it's hard to determine what it is they're looking at. I just don't know how they're evaluating the situation. And, we seem to be plagued with front offices in our 2 big sports in Detroit between baseball and football that do not want to make moves of late. I do not know why. Maybe it's coincidental. I'm sure it is. But we just don't seem to have the ability to go out there and gamble on some trades or gamble on some free agents or gamble on talent, period. We're signing our own guys. You can't say the Lions aren't spending money.
No.
They're putting a lot of money into their own guys. So it's not a cheap thing.
It's close to
With the Lions, it seems a little more like they're afraid to upset the apple cart a little or deviate from their path slightly.
2 schools of thought here. One, it's not that Martha Firestone Ford's being cheap. There's close to $1 billion in extensions. So the Lions are not the Cincinnati Bengals. They are not the Cleveland Browns that just mismanage everything. What they are, though, these are my 2 thoughts, and I hope one of these is wrong. The one I hope is incorrect is that, hey, we've got a waiting list for the first time in franchise history. We've raised ticket prices. We're the hottest ticket in town, and we're pretty much in the mix to make the playoffs and
Yeah.
should be for quite some time.
Yeah.
If that is what's coming down from Sheila and Rod Wood to Brad Holmes and company, because Dan Campbell doesn't think that way. Chris Spielman doesn't think that way. But if that's Brad Holmes' operating MO, then we've got an issue. Otherwise, I think what really could be happening is that Brad Holmes was a scout by trade. He was never a GM before this. He worked under Les Snead, the legendary GM for the Rams. And I don't know that Holmes, he trusts himself so much in the draft process and the evaluation and development process that he may not pull every lever out there. And the other thing is, I don't know, maybe Jalen Phillips is a bad locker room guy. There's some other things we don't know. Philadelphia is always willing to take those risks. I mean, look at all the Georgia guys that had, homicides and speeding tickets and all that. Philly does not care about the locker room whatsoever. I mean, A.J. Brown throws a tantrum every other week if he doesn't get his, 10 looks. So I think Howie Roseman, is probably who we're comparing Brad Holmes to, is just, he probably is a little more risk adverse on that. And the fact that maybe he thinks getting Pascal back, and I cringe to say this, but Marcus Davenport should be back at some point. I'll believe it when I see it, that maybe the reinforcements are already there and that
maybe the reinforcements are better than what they could have got by giving up anything, at the trade deadline. And I'm willing to buy into that a little. I was initially very disappointed we didn't make a single deal. And then after I thought about it, I was like, I feel that there's got to be a decent reason for it. I mean, they did make a deal last year at the deadline. It didn't pan out to be something ground shaking or earth shattering for the team or change the trajectory of the team in the season, but it provided an edge rush nowhere near what we had, and it came at minimal cost. But this year they just didn't do a deal. And I think as fans, we want change, especially the timing of it, right? Right after they lost to the Vikings at home. The deadline hits 2 days later. So we're all looking for change because we hated what we saw last Sunday. And then the deadline hits and nothing happens. It's like a thud.
Yeah. Number one, the only guys that moved that I would have really wanted would have been Jalen Phillips for a 3rd or 4th round pick. And then Roger McCreary, who the Rams picked up as a cornerback that's pretty much washed up, but he was a former 2nd round pick. Those would be the only two that I would say really move the needle. I mean, what the Colts gave up to get Sauce Gardner is mind-blowing. And there's no way Brad Holmes would give up that kind of draft capital for a guy that so far this season, and it could be just the Jets defense, but he's showing decline, and Sauce has never been the biggest guy. I mean, he's slight in frame. He's not a great tackler. That's a lot of capital to invest in a position that let's face it, you have to have a quarterback first and foremost in the NFL. You have to have an edge rusher second, and then you need protection for your quarterback.
Hand it to the Colts that they're going for it.
Yeah.
Hand it to them that they're going for it. They see a real small window here, I'm sure. Yeah. They've resurrected Daniel Jones, and so I just don't know that the one D-back's going to get him there.
The other thing is we're not comparing apples to oranges because the Colts play in the most winnable division in the NFL.
They have a soft schedule, right?
Yeah.
We have the toughest in the NFL right now. So we're seeing that. We're 5-3 with the toughest schedule in the NFL.
And I told you, and I will tell anybody that I'm happy with the 5-3. I just wasn't. I didn't have the Vikings loss at home on my bingo card. So I think
100%. It was a shock to the system. It was a shock to the system.
So did I answer your free agent questions?
No, you did. I mean, the trade deadline happened. We didn't do anything. I think everybody's just kind of like, we're still willing to trust Brad Holmes. It's rough to see that and the timing of it. But if we'd won that Vikings game, we might have said, maybe we don't need that much.
Last year was totally different. When Hutch went out, they didn't. Davenport never emerged. So it was Josh Pascal
and that was it.
Levi Onwuzurike and Aleem McNeil generating a very meager pass rush.
Yep.
They had to do something. And Zadarius Smith, I look at it more favorably than maybe some others, you included, but it was out of much greater necessity than what we have now.
So let's take a look at what's coming up in this game for a spread. How do you feel? Vegas got us at 7.5 right now. I saw 8.5 in some lines. Where are you at on this game? What do you feel here? It's an away game. We get the Commanders, who I feel like we should handle them, but I felt like we should handle the Vikings. What are your thoughts here on the spread?
The line opened at 3.5. And that's when they thought Daniels still might play. It went to 8.5. It settled at 7.5. Even the totals dropped a point, so it's 49.5 now.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I would say the Sharks and Sharps are begging you to take the Commanders. I think that's the smart money in this play.
You think they are, huh?
Yeah. And my initial reaction was 31-14 Lions. Hedging that in a big way, I'm going to say something like 28-24 Lions.
I am going to go 35-27 Lions.
Okay.
I think we just either, if it's 7.5, we just covered. If it's 8.5, we don't. I think the over goes quite over. I have a feeling the defenses are going to be struggling here in this game. Now, if we can get a pass rush, that all goes out the door. And we'll know in the first couple drives how we're looking. I get the feeling we're going to know how this thing's going to go, because if the Lions don't come out ready to rip somebody apart after what happened last week, the fire just isn't there, and it'll be a close one if that happens.
Be a long afternoon.
Who are you taking for fantasy?
Nobody on the Redskins, because
you got nobody on the Redskins. Look, you just did it.
I know.
You just did what I do.
We're allowed one.
You just did what I do. All right. Nobody on the Commanders for you. You don't like any of them.
I mean, I guess Debo, if you had to pick somebody.
Would you maybe take Debo, maybe dabble in some Ertz? We've struggled a little with tight ends at times this year. I don't know. Old man Ertz is getting there.
And I can't figure out if Rodriguez or the rookie's going to get the bulk of the carries. Plus, with this 4-game slide the Commanders are going through, their ability to run the ball, yards per run, is just falling off the cliff. So
I don't buy into their run game at all, unless they sneak up on us. You know who I'm going to look at again, and I keep pushing this guy for the Lions, is Laporta.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Commanders have not been good against tight ends this year. They've given up quite a few touchdowns and some decent yards to some halfway decent tight ends so far. I jump on maybe Laporta in this game. Hopefully they decide to use him for longer than a drive this time around. And I'm thinking possibly we see a little St. Brown resurgence here. He's been a little quiet the last couple games, kind of on and off, right?
He's dropped his quota of passes for the season, so I think he's going to catch everything thrown his way.
I know.
And then as far as running backs go, I think Monty, after that fumble, because that really was the turning point in the Vikings game, I think he comes on strong this game. So
that Monty fumble was rough. We had it, and then he fumbled, and it all just sort of slid downhill. Okay, well, we've given you guys our thoughts on this upcoming game against the Commanders in Washington, D.C. Enjoy the afternoon game on Sunday. We'll be back for a recap shortly after. Go Lions!
Go Lions!